morning, all of my friends that are nice, evil, and otherwise. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Kernels from the Bankrupt Hippo YouTube channel. I'm Bryce, and congrats, you've made it through another week. I hope you all had a triumphant week last weekend, and will rest up before the week ahead. Last week was Halloween, and now we're moving on to Thanksgiving season. Or if you're not into Thanksgiving, perhaps it's the Christmas season. So we've got a lot of awesome stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about the recap of the week. I'm going to talk about what I've reviewed this week and some other great fun topics, including the last weekend's box office results and how I feel about them, because last week was a really not the greatest week in terms of box office, given that it's a holiday weekend, but we'll talk about that in a second. We're going to talk about some retailers where you can find some early Black Friday deals and some doorbusters, as well as a new site that a friend recommended to me where you can also save a little bit of money this holiday season. So if you're looking for gifts for your friends, family, and otherwise, or if you want to treat yourself, highly recommend treating yourself, then this will surely help you out. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Forza Horizon 5 and the praise that it's gotten right out of the gate currently. I already said box office. We're actually going to start the discussion I teased last week, which was the ethicality of sneaking food into the movie theater. I thought that was a fascinating topic. I learned a little bit this week, and I figured I'd share what I'd learned and how I feel about it. And then lastly, we'll do my random thought of the week as well as my recommendations of the week. That's a movie, a TV show, and a video game. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting off with our weekly recap for the week. So this week I reviewed The Addams Family. I believe that came out on Tuesday. I reviewed it for my Halloween movie. Had never seen it. The Addams Family 2 is out right now. I don't know if it's still playing in theaters or not. I would imagine it probably still is in some. It's just not playing in my theater currently. And I thought it was kind of a mediocre movie overall, but if you want my overall thoughts on the film, you can check that out on my channel. It's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely worth a watch, especially if you got young kids at home, young cousins, and want to keep them entertained for an hour and a half. That's actually a pretty solid option. Then I also reviewed Eternals, which came out yesterday. Eternals received a lot of really interesting praise and not so much praise out of the gate. From what I talked about earlier on this week, I believe I talked about it on Thursday's video, where I just talked about my most anticipated movies for the month of November, which November's here now, and Eternals was my first November movie. But anyway, the Eternals Rotten Tomatoes critic score is under 50% currently, which is the first Marvel movie to do so. However, its audience score is like close to 80%. I believe it's mid-80s when I checked yesterday. It's probably changed a little bit because of all the people who went and saw it last night. I still have to write my review for Rotten Tomatoes for it, so this is a great reminder to do that later on. Overall, I thought Eternals was pretty great. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely got a bit of a different flavor than your typical Marvel movie, but I actually kind of found that refreshing because I think Marvel movies in general, although I love all of them, I kind of get tired to that same DNA, or at least the DNA that I walk away from each one of it being action hero, guns, explosions, some espionage, saving the world. Eternals was a much more meta look at all of that, and I found that really fascinating. So I'd recommend watching it if you guys want to know my extended thoughts on it. The review and my out of theater reaction are also on my channel as well. Then I also was able to sneak in a different game this week. For those of you who have been watching for the last few weeks, I have been playing a lot of Far Cry 6. I've enjoyed my time with it. However, I've developed this habit lately, and you guys feel free to jump in the comments if you know exactly what I'm talking about, where there are just so many games to play that I find myself playing games only up to a certain point, then getting distracted and moving on to the next game. And that's kind of what is starting to happen with me. I started playing Psychonauts 2, which is incredible, guys. Please play that game. But then I got distracted by Far Cry 6, so I've been playing Far Cry 6 like the last month. And then I just found a really great deal on Resident Evil 8, which I've been meaning to play since it came out in June. I think June, July. So I bought it, and I got my first Steelbook case, which is really sweet. Maybe I'll throw it up in the thumbnail for those of you who are curious. But then I was this close to playing Resident Evil 8, and that would make my layer of games Resident Evil 8, Far Cry 6, and Psychonauts 2, trying to jungle all of those at the same time. That's just not cool. Me, I like to finish games to completion because I really play games for a great story, great themes, great concepts. Fun gameplay to me is just secondary for whatever reason. That's just the way I roll. I know a lot of you will disagree, especially a lot of you FPS, first-person shooter players, but that's just how I roll. So now I have staved off Resident Evil 8 probably till Thanksgiving. I'll probably start that Thanksgiving. And now I've reverted back to Psychonauts 2. I'm really close to finishing it. And my words are building up to an epic conclusion. And I love it. It's on Game Pass if you guys have that right now. And then lastly, I just watched The Big Sick last night. My out of theater reaction I put up really, really late, probably right around midnight. The Big Sick. It's basically the story of Kumail Nanjiani and the manner in which he met his wife. It's a really fascinating story. I am not exactly sure how different the movie is from the real story. However, considering Kumail Nanjiani lived literally through that particular situation and is the lead for that movie, it wouldn't be surprised if the two were very intertwined in this case. So it's the story I heard that I never knew I needed to hear. That's all I'll say about it. The only bummer about The Big Sick is it's only on Amazon Prime Video. So good news, bad news. If you want to watch it on Amazon Prime Video, well, you're in luck. You can just sign in right now and watch it, which please do so. Stop the video. Go watch it right now. And if not, you'll probably have to rent it somewhere for like $3 or $4. It's worth the $3 or $4. Absolutely. If you're teetering on the fence, I highly recommend it. It's great. It's great. It's great. I'll be doing a review for that probably on Tuesday, or it'll be debuting probably on Tuesday. I'll probably film it sometime today after shooting this podcast. Okay, so now that kind of gets us into all the different topics for today's podcast episode, and that's going to begin with some early Black Friday deals that are starting to come out from retailers. So as you guys know, Black Friday has been a very busy time for many retailers over the course of probably the last 10 to 20 years. I can remember when I bought, and this is going to be a really funny anecdote, I got a 24-inch HD TV, I believe from RCA. This is when RCA was still making TVs. I don't even know if they still make TVs anymore. But I remember that in order to get a 24-inch TV, it was $200, which is insane to think about. And you had to wait in line for like several hours to get it at a Sears. And that's kind of dating it a little bit. But anyways, long story short, Black Friday is no longer like that anymore. Now retailers are starting to go into early Black Friday deals where you can get the same deals just a few weeks earlier. They're hoping that it'll lessen the load on them when Black Friday comes around for a couple reasons. One, pandemic, and two, it just helps ease them a little bit more so everybody's not so stressed out. And I love it. I am a big fan of that. Having said that, I am still waiting till Black Friday because I want to see what deals I can actually get the day of, but we'll see how that turns out. Best Buy, Walmart, Amazon are the three retailers as of right now that I know of that have released some early Black Friday deals. Best Buy has been releasing them for the last couple of weeks now. They've got some good deals. Not great deals. I've been wanting to buy a laptop for a while, as I've talked about on previous podcasts, and I just don't find the quality of their deals to be quite up to what I'm looking for. So I think I'm just going to hold off and wait. But if you guys are looking for some great deals, those three places can hook you up. And if you guys are curious, if you don't know where exactly to search to find some of this information for great deals, check out IGN. IGN writes really great articles dedicated to Black Friday deals or just holiday gifts for certain types of friends and families, especially if they're gamers. So I highly recommend checking them out all the way through too. I will say though, the one thing I've been really impressed with in terms of the Black Friday deals that I've seen is physical media. And what I mean by physical media are video game discs and also movie discs. So your 4K versions of Nobody is currently available in 4K format for $10, which I am going to go get because that is an incredible deal. And Nobody is in my top 5 favorite movies of 2021 still after everything I've seen this year. So I got to go get that up. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is available in 4K for like $10. I am a huge fan of that movie and Edgar Wright in general. And if you haven't seen Last Night in Soho, that was also directed by Edgar Wright. Please go watch it. You will like it. I also have seen different box sets available. I got that information from IGN. There's a nice Harry Potter box set for the Harry Potter fan in your life. It's about $90. You get the 4K copy of all the Harry Potter movies and I believe some collector's items. Check it out. It's really, really cool. There's also it for the Zack Snyder DC trilogy, which you can find on HBO Max if you're an HBO Max subscriber. But if not, that might be a good option for you too. There's a pretty good deal on that. And also Middle Earth, if you're into the Lord of the Rings, that kind of thing. There's box sets for that as well. And if they had a Christopher Nolan box set, that's the one thing I needed in my life because Christopher Nolan makes incredible movies. And if they ever come out with a 4K box set for him, you best believe I'll be there to snag it up. And one other site I want to recommend to you guys too, Kaylee, if you're watching this, thank you for this recommendation. But There's a great website out there called slickdeals.net where you can find some pretty incredible deals on different items that you might need. It's basically a website where it aggregates and it looks online for all these amazing deals and puts them into one place, so you don't have to do so much searching. So slickdeals.net, that's SLICKDEALS.net. Check out that website if you're looking for more. And there's another website where you can get some good coupons if you're looking to save a little bit of money. It's called retailmenot.com. That's retailmenot.com. Check that out too. I have saved some good money on the protein that I buy from that website. So check it out. Those are some Black Friday advice options that I have for you. If you guys have any more great websites or places to look for deals, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. Okay, so that'll bring us out of Black Friday, and that'll bring us into Forza Horizon 5. So Forza Horizon 5 is debuting, I believe, on Tuesday officially on Game Pass. I know it's available for early access right now, and some of you watching this might have already been playing it, which is fantastic. The scores for Forza Horizon 5 have been out of this world. I think just about every single major publication and review site that's like IGN, GameSpot, etc., has given this game, at minimum an 8.5 out of 10. Most of the scores, however, are leaning more toward like the 9.5 and 10s, which is out of this world. It's amazing, and I'm really happy for the studios that went in and made this game because it sounds incredible. Now, I don't believe... I'll give you IGN's one-line summary for the game exactly, and I quote, "Forza Horizon 5 is the result of a racing studio at the peak of its craft and is the best open-world racing game available." They also praise its wide appeal by stating the following: "Forza Horizon 5 is a deep and nuanced car nirvana for rev heads and auto geeks to endlessly collect, tinker, and experiment. It's also an extremely accessible buffet of racing spectacle, open to everyone, from deluxe edition diehards, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, to Game Pass nomads, no matter their driving skill or mechanical knowledge." And to sum that up, long story short, this game is amazing, and the beauty of it lies within the fact that it caters to such a wide audience. If you are deeply nuanced in cars, you will find beauty in Forza Horizon 5. If you are someone who is maybe not into racing games and are just looking to try something different on Game Pass, you will find joy in Forza Horizon 5. That's essentially, I'm kind of paraphrasing that whole review of IGN there. And the reason why I bring it up on this episode and what this has to do with you guys watching right now is the following. Me personally, I belong in the category of Game Pass nomads who might not be into racing video games. I am one of those people who looks at the different goals and objectives of Xbox's Microsoft reward system, where they reward you points for basically trying all the different Game Pass games. And I download basically every single one of those games and I play through them. I am one of those people, and I don't like racing games. So having said that, with all of the love that this game has been getting, it is really hard for me, belonging into that category, which you might belong into, to not download and at least try this game. Even if I were to pick it up for a few hours, I think I would probably find time well spent within that. And the reason why I say that without having tried Forza Horizon 5 yet is because I actually did this with Forza Horizon 4. I ended up downloading Forza Horizon 4 at some point in the past. I played it for a few hours. I didn't continue to play it because I just wasn't looking to get balls to the wall with a game for whatever reason. I had other games on my docket, but I played Forza Horizon 4. I don't like racing games. I really enjoyed the couple of hours that I played with it. I played about 4 hours, and it was a great time. It's a racing game unlike I've ever seen. If you've ever played an open world game, like in an RPG, like Assassin's Creed is a good example of this, where you've got this really wide open map that you can just kind of explore, drive through, complete different objectives, try different courses, try different races. It is the perfect game for that, because that's what Forza Horizon 4 essentially is, maybe without some of those RPG elements. But it's basically an open world where you can just drive around, explore, and take on different challenges and different quests, we'll call it, throughout the game. It's a really fascinating concept, and I think that's why it has such a wide appeal, is because you can really tailor your experience to what you want. So for those reasons, my friends, if you are belonging into that category like myself, or you're a Game Pass nomad, maybe you don't like racing games, you might want to check out Forza Horizon 5, because I think it might provide you something that you will at minimum like. You won't have wasted your time. And that's what this is all about, right? Providing you recommendations so that you can get the best gaming experience possible. So, friends, I will leave it at that. If you're on the cusp of playing Forza Horizon 5, I say give it a shot. But I want to know what you think. Have you played Forza Horizon 5? Whatever you think, you know where the comment section is. Let me know. Okay, so now we're going to move into what I think is the last topic before we get into my ethical conversation about sneaking food in the movies, and that's going to be last weekend's box office results. So I like to do this segment each and every week because, one, for me, it's fun. I like analyzing the money made at movies and why or why not they might have made as much money as they did. However, this is probably the most boring box office weekend results that we've had since I've started covering them on this podcast, which hasn't been very long, but stick with me here. So the top 5 box office players for the weekend, only one of them actually changed. A couple of them have changed positions, but there's only one newcomer in there. So this is the order of the box office results. Dune has stayed at the very top over Halloween weekend. Let me back up for a second. These are the box office results from Halloween weekend. So keep in mind, this is a holiday weekend. Dune led the charge and made 15.5 million. That's its second weekend. Halloween Kills came in second at 8.5 million. No Time to Die came in third at 7.8 million. The newcomer, My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission, I think is the movie, made 6.4 million and came in at fourth. And then lastly, Venom 2 came in at fifth and made 5.7 million. The reason I say this is the most boring box office result weekend is because not a whole lot of change happened. But what makes it really interesting is that the amount of money that each of these movies made was significantly smaller than a lot of other weekends. Dune last week made 40 million and is now down to 15.5 million. If my numbers are correct, I'll probably go back and look at this later and realize that I was mistaken in some regard, but stick with me here. The point is, it's really interesting to see box office results on a holiday weekend because I've never actually looked at them that deep on a holiday weekend before. So I would go into a very nuanced, deep conversation about why holiday weekends have lesser box office numbers, but the reality is I actually don't know that for a fact, where holiday weekends, if they consistently put out smaller box office results, I don't know that for a fact. I haven't done as much research into that area as I'd like to, so I'll just kind of leave it at that and just say that these movies made a lot less money for whatever reason. I will attribute it to the fact it was a holiday weekend and the fact that none of these movies, with the exception of My Hero Academia, was actually in its opening weekend, so that might be another reason for that. Because Dune, Halloween Kills, No Time to Die, and Venom 2 they all have already debuted. Dune was the newest one in its second week. Halloween Kills was in its third week. No Time to Die was in its fourth week. Venom 2 is in its fifth week. So that might be a reason why they have low numbers, because a lot of people have probably already gone out and seen them because they've been out in theaters for a minimum week and as long as a month or more. So it's no surprise that when they get to these later stages, a lot of people have already seen them. The momentum dies, and inevitably less people see them, and they make less money over time. That's just how it goes. However, the one thing I want to touch on is My Hero Academia. This thing really had a big punch in its opening weekend, especially for the US. I was reading a little bit before I recorded this, and it sounds like this movie did really, really well in Japan, and I believe this is the market that it originated from, was from Japan. Having said that, 6.4 million in your opening weekend in a time where there's a lot of great movies playing in theaters, and you're only in 1,600 theaters, is a really strong opening. So normally, if you're getting a wide theatrical release in the US, you're talking at minimum 2,000 theaters, if not more, probably 2,200. But in this case, with My Hero Academia, it only got to 1,600 theaters on its opening weekend, I believe, in just the US. So the fact that it made 6.4 million in the US on its opening weekend to only 1,600 theaters makes for really great averages for the movie and is really impressive nonetheless. Now, the one number I really wanted to find before recording this episode was, what was the movie's budget? Because I would imagine this movie's budget wasn't huge. It is an animated film. It's not live action, so that'll likely save you a little bit of money from what I know and understand. And I'd be curious to see what its budget was, because this movie seems like it's made a lot of money. I think the current number right now is 38.9 million worldwide. So I think My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission has some success on its hands, and good on them for that. But the remainder of the movies, not surprised that they're still in the top 5. But anyways, my friends, what do you make of the Halloween weekend box office results? Whatever you think, you know where the comment section is. Let me know. Okay, so now, moving into the ethical question that I want to start up last weekend, the question of, is it ethical to sneak food into the movie theater? Now, I want to start off this discussion with a bit of a prelude. This discussion isn't meant to tell you how you should feel about sneaking food into the movies. It's simply a dialogue where I'm going to try to present you some ideas about the movie industry, some facts about the movie industry, some things I might do personally, have done in my entire life, what my other friends have done when it comes to sneaking food into movie theaters. And I'll give you my thoughts and opinions on it, but by all means, I don't want this to be preachy in any way. I just want to start an interesting dialogue between you and friends, or you and me, because it's just, I thought, a really fascinating discussion. And let's just kind of get into it. So when it comes to the movie theater industry, movie theater chains, or your mom and pop small business movie theater owners, they are designed to make money, which is stating the obvious. Nobody goes into business to lose money. You exclusively go into business to make money, to earn a living, to live your life comfortably, and so you can eat food. We all love food. I know I do. I just had a ton of chocolate last night and my stomach hurts for it. But anyway, the reality is they're in this to make money. And from the research I've done, which I still need to do more as this discussion evolves, but there's essentially 4 different ways that a theater can make money. You can make money on ticket sales, you can make money on food and concessions, you can make money on advertisements and commercials, and you can make money on investors. Investors can also give you money. Now, for the sake of this argument, let's assume that investors probably don't give you a ton of money, because I think investors are probably the lowest amount of income that you can have as your theater matures and ages. Commercials and brochures and ads during trailers or during the time before a movie shows, probably not a whole ton of money there. So that leads to 2 main sources of income, being the ticket sales that you generate and the food and concessions that you provide. Now, from research that I've done, this is what AMC has said about those 2 particular categories. AMC as a movie company makes about 50% of the money that they sell from tickets as a profit. So essentially, for every movie ticket that they sell, they get to keep about half the money, while the other half goes back to the movie studios that they get the movie from. However, having said that, after looking into this a little bit deeper rather than just at the service level, it sounds like it's not even really a 50-50 split. A lot of times this will vary. Here's why. Movie studios will often negotiate with movie theaters to determine what percentage the movie theater will get and what percentage the studio will get. In the first couple weeks of a theatrical release, when a movie first comes out, movie theaters will often get a much smaller percentage of the tickets that they sell in those first couple weeks than the studio will get. A lot of times, movie theaters actually make 0 from tickets when it comes to really big theatrical releases. For example, say Avengers Endgame is coming out in theaters. What Marvel Studios will do is they will negotiate with the movie theaters and say, okay, we will let you show Avengers Endgame in your theater. However, in the first 2 weeks that is out in your theater, you get to keep none of the ticket sales that you make. All of the ticket sales will go to us as the studio. Because of the fact of this movie is very popular, it's going to make a lot of money, and will drive a lot of people to your theater. So, by us providing this great movie experience, this great movie, it's going to draw people to your theater and cause them to spend more money because you have concessions. That's why studios end up negotiating for that higher ticket price in the first couple weeks of theatrical release, because after those first 2 weeks come around, Then usually in weeks 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however long, studios will relax a little bit because by then a lot of people have already gone out and seen that movie, and they'll allow theaters to keep a greater percentage of the ticket sales. So instead of movie theaters getting none of the percentage of ticket sales for that movie in the first couple weeks, in weeks 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that percentage might rise. You'll see movie theaters start to get more money for the ticket sales, maybe up to like 70%. However, it's not a lot of money by then, because if you're going and seeing a movie that's been out for 4, 5, 6 weeks, probably a lot of people have already seen it, like I've already mentioned with Venom 2, and there's not a whole lot of money to be made. 70% of one ticket is not a lot of money. So in that regard, my original statement saying that theaters essentially get to keep 50% of their ticket sales isn't wholly true. In fact, it's probably a lot less. So I would venture to say that theaters maybe get 30% of the ticket sales that they get, which isn't a whole lot of money to keep your lights on, especially if there's no great movies coming out in theaters and no one comes to watch any movies, especially like we've had with the pandemic. So my point here is theaters make a lot less off of ticket sales than you might imagine. They don't get to keep a very large chunk of the ticket sales they make. It's a very small percentage. So now if they don't get a lot of money from investors, they don't get a lot of money from advertisements, they don't get a lot of money from ticket sales, or maybe as much as they would hope or you would think, that leaves concessions. From what I know, AMC on average gets to keep, for every dollar of concessions that they sell, gets to profit 85% of that dollar. So they make about 85 cents on the dollar for every dollar of concessions that they sell. It's a very large chunk and portion of that dollar, and the reason being for that is because the markup is quite large. It costs them maybe 8 cents to sell a soda, and they charge maybe $4.50 for it. But the reason being is because that is essentially their sole source of profit, of income, in order to keep the lights on, to keep the movie running, and to earn a profit. Without the incentive to earn a profit, there's no movie theaters. There's no business. Like I said, everyone goes into business for the purpose of making money. If there's no profit to be made, there's no reason to stay in business, unless you're a person who just wants to give back to the world. But to be honest, giving back to the world and making no money doesn't help you eat. You can't eat off of that. You can't live off of that. So that is why theaters mark up so much money in concessions, because they need to earn a profit somehow. And snacks and drinks are a really great way to do so. And they market that very, very extensively. Plus, when you add in things like subscriptions, or subscription services like AMC Movie Pass, Marcus Theaters has one of those as well. They have a rewards program. A lot of theaters, Cinemark, any theater chain you can imagine probably has a rewards program, because it draws people into the movies more often than they normally go, so they can come in, bring their friends, family, spend money on concessions, because once you get into a theater, you'll more than likely buy something and pay more than what you would normally buy yourself or at all in general. So that's why a lot of movie theaters produce that markup, because that's their one source of profit. So that leads me into this. Let me transition real quick. Now that I've given you a little bit of facts, let me transition into some of my past experiences of sneaking food into the movies. So when I was younger, my grandparents would take me into the movies all the time. My grandmothers, they would always have big purses with them, because that's just what a lot of people carried purses with them at the time. Nobody really does often anymore, from what I know and understand, because everything can fit onto her phone. But they used to sneak in a lot of chocolate, a lot of candy. Licorice was a really big one. We used to sneak into the movie theaters all the time. So, and this was at big chains a lot of the times. I don't have any small movie theater businesses in my area. A lot of it is big chains. We used to do that all the time just to save a little bit of money, because popcorn's like $12. But face it, we would buy popcorn anyway and finish it before the movie started, because it's just really, really good. And to put another spin on this, I have had friends who have actually made a game out of seeing what is the most obnoxious thing that they could sneak into a movie theater. So I had a group of friends who, what they would do is, each time they go to the movie theater, they would up the stakes a little bit. So they start off small. They would start off with something you could fit in your pocket, maybe the chocolate bar, a Hershey's chocolate bar, which is fire. Then they would sneak it up a little bit to maybe a McDonald's cheeseburger. Can you get a McDonald's cheeseburger into the theater? Okay, they got that in there. How about Chipotle burrito? They got that in there. How about a whole rotisserie chicken? They went to a grocery store and snuck in a whole rotisserie chicken into a movie theater and ate it while the movie played, which I thought was really hilarious. And this was at another big movie theater chain as well. I'm not going to say which one, but I just thought that was really funny. And it got me thinking a little bit. It's like, okay, this whole, the novelty in that, the fun and the tradition of making it a game with your friends and having fun, because that's what the movie theater going experience is about, is having fun. That's kind of a cool way to do it. I know that it definitely hurts the downside to that is it definitely hurts the movie theaters, because the one source of profit that they can probably make off of that group of friends is eradicated almost completely because they're sneaky in their own food. And for that reason, that's why a lot of movie theaters end up frowning upon you having carry-ins. Having said that, how does this tie into, okay, you've got a group of friends with a great tradition. You've got movie theaters who are trying to earn money and make a living. The collision of that. What do we do with that as people? How do we be good consumers who are looking after our own self-interest? Because by us looking after our own self-interests, we are serving the market and telling the market what we want. However, it could potentially be hurting the business of movie theaters, movie theater chains in general. And if there's no money for movie theaters to make, well, then they won't stay in business and we simply won't have movie theaters anymore. That's a very extreme example, very extreme case, but it just gets you thinking a little bit. So I will say there's so many different angles that you can take to this. Here's where I stand personally. And I'm not, again, disclaimer, not telling you what to think. Or how to think. Just think about it in general, form your own conclusions and opinions, and feel free to join in the discussion in the comments below. My stance is, honestly, if you go into a theater and they don't have any signs that say no carry-ins, you bring in a carry-in and they don't stop you, they see you eating a carry-in and they don't stop you, well then they must not care that much. They still must be doing well enough to where they don't have to care, and thereby it's probably okay. If they actively see you engaging in bringing in your own food and thus them losing out on profits, well then there's nothing else you can do. You are doing what you want. You're telling the market what you want by bringing in your own food. If the theater doesn't care, why should you care? Enjoy that rotisserie chicken and eat the living hell out of it. So me personally, I'm okay with it. The one area where I would feel a little guilty about is if I were to go to a local theater, sneak in my own food, and basically give them no room to make any money at all. The reason being is because mom and pop movie theaters, as well as with all small businesses, a lot of times they don't make a ton of money. Of course, there's exceptions, there's rules. However, they're not like a $1 billion corporation that is got shareholders and investors, and they still all have jobs at the end of the day. With mom and pop movie theaters, if their business doesn't succeed, they can't eat at night. And for me personally, I would feel bad about it. Now, I know that's not the case for every small movie theater, for every mom and pop movie theater out there, but that's just from what I know and understand, that's just kind of the way that dynamic is understood. One example of that was there's a theater in my town that I lived in for a few years. That was a small mom and pop one. And honestly, I had only been in there a few times, but I never snuck food in because the food in there was so good that it was worth paying the money for. So that's another thing to think about in general, is that you'll probably find better quality food at those mom and pop theaters and those small business owner theaters than you will at the big chains. So that's another reason in general. But I don't know if I would have a good conscience if I snuck in my own food into a small local theater and the theater ended up going out of business because I didn't support them quite enough. So that's just where I stand personally. As I learn more information about this particular topic, I will divulge that on new and upcoming episodes. But guys, I want to know what you think. Where do you stand when it comes to the ethics of, or where do you stand in general on sneaking your own food into the movie theaters? Do you have a really great story that goes with it? Whatever you think, you know where the comment section is. Let me know. Okay, so now we're going to get into the next topic for this week, which is my random thought of the week. And this is actually really funny because this is directly in line with, is it okay to sneak food into the movies? Now, I said I'm okay with it when it comes to big chains. So when it comes to that, are coffee and donuts an undiscovered, under-realized thing to consume at the movie theaters? Are coffee and donuts an undiscovered, under-realized food combination to consume at the movies? Now, there are a lot of pros and cons to eating coffee and donuts. Coffee and donuts are the favorite combination of police officers since the dawn of time. Me personally, I love a good coffee and donut because I'm obsessed with both of those foods. Now, when it comes to movie theaters, I made a little short on this that's also on the channel if you guys want to check that out, but I'll just kind of sum it up here by saying this. There are a lot of great things about coffee and donuts. One, coffee and donuts are a great shareable item. You could buy like a dozen and probably share them with 2 or 3 friends in the movie theaters, and they'll probably keep you full all movie long. Plus, with coffee, it's nice and warm. I don't know about y'all, but whenever it comes to movie theaters, I'm generally pretty cold when watching a movie. Just the other night when I went to see Eternals, I actually had, and you can tell this is when fall is upon us, I had a jacket, a hoodie, and earmuffs when I went to the movie theater, and I ended up wearing the jacket inside too because I was just so cold. Now, if I had a nice, ginormous cup of coffee, I would have kept warm all movie long, and I probably would have enjoyed the movie even more than I already did. And if I had some donuts with me that I could dunk them in, it would have just made life so much better. Now, there's cons to that. Although the pros are the fact that it's warm, it's delicious, it is very shareable. They're soft and chewy so that you can eat and drink both of these things without making a sound, and so you can still hear the movie. The only thing that sucks about popcorn, it's great, but if you eat it during the movie, you can't hear the movie because the crunch from your mouth is drowning it out. Coffee and donuts doesn't do that. However, the cons with that is if you're very sensitive to coffee, you'll probably have to use the bathroom, whether it be number 1 or number 2 throughout the movie. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And also the fact is donuts are a lot smaller than a lot of conventional food items that you'd eat at movie theaters. So you'd probably need 3 or 4 of them in order to feel full. Having said that, the price of donuts is exponentially smaller than popcorn that you'd buy at the movies. You could probably buy a dozen donuts anywhere for about $6 and get a coffee for about maybe $2-3, depending on if you bring your own or if you go to Dunkin' Donuts and buy some coffee. But you're saving a little bit of money there, and you could probably feed a couple of friends as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind. But I actually want to try this. And if I ever do get back to eating food at the movies, which I'll probably have to do it someday. I'd like to do it someday again. I haven't eaten in a movie theater in a long time, but I'd be really tempted to bring in coffee and donuts. I know my theater actually might serve coffee, so maybe I'll buy some there, but I want to try that to just see how it would go. But my friends, I want to ask you, have you ever tried coffee and donuts at the movie theaters? If so, how did it go? Is it going to be something that you are going to try? What's your favorite food at the movie theaters? You know where the comment section is. Let me know. All right, my friends, so we're going to wrap up this Coffee and Kernels episode by giving you some recommendations for this week. I'm going to recommend to you a movie, a video game, and a TV show to keep you occupied for this week and beyond. So, starting off with the movie, the one I'm reviewing on Tuesday, The Big Sick. Go ahead and watch this movie. You won't regret it. This story has everything you can want and is very unexpected. I'm going to take it far as to say don't go into it cold. Don't watch the trailers. Don't read the synopsis. You'll actually like the movie more if you do neither of those things. So, The Big Sick, Amazon Prime Video, available. Next, the video game. Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts 2 is a game that can appeal to a wide audience. Just about any age can play it. It really subtly touches on subjects about mental health that don't shove it in your face, and it makes the game a lot of fun. Plus, if you're into platforming games, it's a great play. It's probably one of my games of the year, so give it a shot on Xbox Game Pass, or you can buy it for PlayStation 2 if you've got PlayStation as well. And then lastly, to wrap up this episode, the TV show. This one is a Netflix show that has been out for actually a really long time, which is great because you can binge it right now if you'd like. It's 13 Reasons Why. 13 Reasons Why is the story of a young lady who ends up committing suicide really tragically, but she leaves a set of 13 cassette tapes detailing the reasons why she killed herself, and she drops them off on each. Hang on. There are 13 reasons why this girl has decided to commit suicide. One tape is dedicated to one person who impacted that decision. So what she does is she boxes up these 13 tapes. She gives it to person number 1 within this set of 13 tapes. The person who was number 1 on the list is going to pass it to person number 2, then 2 to 3, all the way to 13. It's a really great show that I highly recommend. Give it a shot on Netflix if you have the time. Okay, my friends, that'll do it for this episode of Coffee and Kernels. Thank you so much for watching. Click right here if you like this and you want to see more. I've been Bryce. This has been the Banker of Hippo YouTube channel. Until next time, have a great day.